So people need to do things which are healthy, and that's it. Okay. Okay, Tanya, we're in middle of Perik Yud Aleph. We're getting closer to the end, and we're going to start learning all about the Beinoni. So in the Hebrew English Tanyas, we're on page Tezayin on the top, 46 at the bottom. Okay? And we're going to start 6, 8, 10, 12 lines from the bottom of the page. Again, in Perik Yud, the Alter Rebbe explained the level of a tzaddik, complete tzaddik, incomplete tzaddik. In Perik Yud Aleph, the Alter Rebbe started discussing the Rashah v'tovlei. Okay, just like there's a tzaddik v'tovlei, tzaddik v'ralei, a tzaddik with good, a tzaddik with bad. There's a Rashah that has good, and there's a Rashah that has bad. Until now, the Alter Rebbe is saying something we should all wish to be. The higher level of tzaddik v'ralei. Okay, tzaddik v'ralei means a person could sin once, maybe once a year, only in thought, not even to sin, but just about the concept of sin. The speech, bottom line is, and right away he does tshuva. The second he finishes sinning, he'll right away do tshuva. Okay? But he's called Rashah v'tovlei. He's a Rashah. Why is he a Rashah? We learned. Because the fact that they allowed their body to sin, meaning they allowed the Yetzer Hara to overcome the Nefesh Shu'alakis in the battle of the two kings fighting over the bat of the city, the fact that the person allowed the Yetzer Hara to control the Yetzer Tov even once, that makes you a Rashah. But because you right away do tshuva, and it's very rare, so then you're a tzaddik, a Rashah v'tovlei. Okay? Basically, in simple English, what we call the ultimate tzaddik is a Rashah v'tovlei. Okay? Now, he says, and he said before, there's many, many different levels of Rashah v'tovlei. Yesh misha, then there's another person. Shara geiva b'yeser. The evil is victorious more often, not once a blue moon. It's more often. Umislabish by kol shloisha levusham. Before the Alter Rebbe said the higher level of Rashah v'tovlei sins either in thought or in speech or in action. Then you have another level of Rashah v'tovlei. He sins in all three, thought, speech, and action. Umachtiei ba'avedas chamuras yeser, and he makes him sin with more severe sins. Ube'itim krevim yeser, and more often. In other words, there's another level of a Rashah v'tovlei. So what happens is he sins more often, stricter sins in thought, speech, and action, but beintayim mischarit immediately regrets it. Uboyim le'hirhurit tshuva, and right away he decides thoughts of tshuva come. Mebchines hatev shebenafshe, because of the good that this nefesh has. Shem is gabik sas being time that wakes up for good in between the sins. Meaning like this. Even if the person sins often, the fact that they regret what they did puts them in a category of Rashah v'tovlei. That now you have a million different levels. You have a guy that sins once a year in thought or speech or action. He's also Rashah v'tovlei. Then you can have a guy that sins more often and in thought, speech, but he does tshuva. He regrets what he did. And he says, so why is he a Rashah? He keeps doing tshuva. He doesn't have the power to conquer the evil, to separate himself from sin completely. He doesn't have that ability not to sin. He sins. You have the ability to sin, you're a Rashah. You do tshuva, you're a Rashah v'tovlei. You never sin, you're a higher level of Rashah v'tovlei if you do sin once in a while. To be admit that he did wrong and to leave the sin. K'mayim val zeh omer Razal, and concerning this level, the Gemara says, Rishoyim maleim charotes. Rishoyim are full of regrets. They're full of remorse. The Gemara says in the Dor, Rishoyim are full of remorse, full of regrets. Shem Rei v'Rishoyim, which refers to most of the Rishoyim. Sheyesh b'chinas teiv b'nafshem adayim, which is they have a little bit of good left. Okay, I don't want to say it in a negative way. Basically, guys, we're all Rashah v'Tevles. Okay, some of us are better Rashah v'Tevles, some of us are worse Rashah v'Tevles. Okay, but we're still not in the category of what we could be called the Beinoni. That we're going to see very soon. But now he finishes the chapter like this. And even then, the Alter Rebbe brings out a beautiful point. A person who never regrets their evil sins. They just never regret. They sin and they never ever regret. And no thoughts of tshuva ever enter his mind. The guy sins and he never is interested in doing tshuva. Nikra Rashah v'Ralei, he's called a Rashah, that's Ralei, he has only bad. Meaning, Sharasha benafshay, the evil in him, Levade nisha bekibed, the only thing left of this person is evil. He doesn't even have a minute amount of good to regret the bad that they did. That's a very low person. He is so bad, Alter Rebbe says, he never ever regrets what he did, meaning there's absolutely no feeling of good within him to be able to regret the negativity that he does. Ki gaver kol kach alatei, because in that case, the wicked, the evils, was so victorious over the good, it leaves him, the good leaves him. But, and here the Alter Rebbe, as a Chabad-loving Rebbe says, it stands in an encompassing level. I'll explain that in a second. It hovers over him. And that's why, Momaila from above, and that's why Chazal say, Akol be'asara, over any group of 10 Jews, Shchinta Shayya, the Shechina rests, even a total Rashah. Meaning, Alter Rebbe says like this, the guy could be a total Rashah. He has no good within him whatsoever to regret. And when he sins, he doesn't care that he sins, and he doesn't feel bad, he doesn't regret it, he doesn't do tshuva. Yet, he has a Shechina over him. The Shechina rests over him, and he's still a Jew. And therefore, the Gemara says, "Afal pi shechata," even though he sinned, Yisrael, who he's still a Yisrael, and the Rebbe points out, the Gemara doesn't say Yehudi who or whatever it is. Yisrael is the highest name of the Jewish people, not Bnei Yaakov. The highest name of the Jewish people, besides Yeshurun, is Bnei Yisrael. Not only Bnei Yisrael, Alpha Pishachata, Yisrael, who he is on the high level of a Yisrael. Why? Because the neshama is there. But what do you mean it hovers over him? Alter Rebbe said it hovers over him from above. The explanation is very simple. When you say it's makif, like we learned many times, emunah, faith, and belief in Hashem, every Jew has it. Every Jew, maminim b'nei maminim. When a Jew once came to the Rebbe and said, Rebbe, I don't believe in God, the Rebbe said, the fact that you say you don't believe in God doesn't take away from the fact that you do believe in God. Because Torah says you believe in God. The guy says, I don't believe in God. Every Jew has a munah. The question is it internalized? Or is it makif, encompassing? What does it mean in makif? Does it affect him directly or indirectly? Makif means hovering above the person. Doesn't mean it's, hanging over your head. It means it affects you indirectly rather than directly. A Rashah v'Toivloi, a guy that sins a lot, but he does tshuva, he regrets what he does. That toiv in the person affects him directly. It gets him to do tshuva. It gets the person to do tshuva. The Rashah v'Ralei, the Alter Rebbe says, never does tshuva. That means it doesn't affect him in any direct way. But he's still a Jew. He's still a Jew that has the Shekhinah resting over him, hovering above him, and he's still a Jew. And therefore, like the Rebbe says, even on the Rashah v'Ralei, you're never allowed to give up hope, because he still has a neshama. The fact that he doesn't have it in a direct way, it's only indirect, so you have to work harder to get the indirect to come into the direct. Yeah? Chavi, you have to unmute yourself. Okay. No. You have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Okay, so Rabbi Shishman, but the midah of a Jew is kindness. So how can a Jew be totally ra?
He doesn't do any chesed.
A little schwach.
I know, but that's why it's a very uncommon. It's a very uncommon Jew.
Yeah.
To say a Jew has no regrets for anything bad they do, come on. I mean, you don't find such a Jew, but it's the technical possibility.
Do you believe in the concept of people who identify as Jews, like for generations and generations, but they're actually Erev Rav, and that's why they don't have those midos of a Jew?
I don't know. I don't. I don't know souls. I know food, bodies. I don't know neshamas. I don't know. Only Hashem. Rebbes know that. You have to ask Rebbes, not me. Okay, Parakid Beis. Now we're learning what we are all to be. Okay, Parakid Beis, 32 on the top, 48 at the bottom. So the Alter Rebbe said like this. At the first page of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe said there's two levels of a tzaddik, two levels of a Rashah, and a Beinoni. Okay, so the Alter Rebbe explained tzaddik v'toivloi. Not only did he tzaddik v'ralei kill the Yetzer Hara, tzaddik v'toivloi transforms the Yetzer Hara to good. Rashah v'toivloi is a guy that sins more often, less often, but he does tshuva. Rashah v'ralei is a guy that never does tshuva. Now the Alter Rebbe is going to discuss what the whole Tanya is based on. Sefer Shel Beinonim. The book of Tanya is called Sefer Shel Beinonim. And this is what the Alter Rebbe is explaining now, the concept of a Beinoni. The Beinoni, this intermediate person, known as the Beinoni, is Shala'elam Einara Goiver Kolkach, that the evil is never powerful enough Lelichpe Shesuir Ktana, to conquer the small city, Leislabish Beguf, to dress itself into the body, Lachtir, to make it sin. Okay? The Beinoni is a person who doesn't allow the evil to conquer the body in a practical way to sin. The Hainu, which means that the three garments, like we learned of the animal soul, which are machshava, dibur, maisa, thought, speech, and action of mitzad haklipa, evil. In other words, evil thoughts, evil speech, evil action, and gave them by al nefesh olikis, are never victorious and do not prevail over the godly soul. Lislabish beguf, to dress itself in the body, b'mayach, in the head, which is thought, b'mayach, in the mouth, which is speech, or v'shar ramach evorim, or only of the other 248 limbs, Lachtiyam ulatamim chas v'shalom, to make them sin or to impurify them. The Beinoni is somebody that never, ever allows the evil to conquer his thought, speech, and action of the neshama. That doesn't mean, and again, we didn't say this yet, but the Beinoni has a super powerful nefesh habamis. A Beinoni has a super powerful yetzer hara. And the Alter Rebbe says later in Tanya, the longer you live, the more you eat, the more you sleep, the more you eat, the stronger your nefesh habamis gets. Yet, as strong as the nefesh habamis is, and it tries to feed the person to think no good, talk no good, act no good, the Beinoni does not allow him to do it. Meaning, I'm going to say it outside a little bit. The second an evil thought comes into the mind, the Beinoni right away gets rid of it. The second he becomes aware that there's a foreign thought, he right away gets rid of it. How do you get rid of a foreign thought? So later, the Alter Rebbe will explain very simple. By thinking a good thought. If there's a negative thought coming, negative, I mean forbidden, whatever the word negative means. If a negative thought is coming into the head, the only way you can get rid of it is by thinking a good thought. Therefore, the Friedrich Rebbe writes, and the Rebbe writes, and Yom all over the place, that a Jew always needs to have oral Torah, point of Torah in their memory, in their mind, that as soon as the Yetzer Hara starts up with the person, he throws an evil thought into the mind, you right away get rid of it by thinking a good thought. That's a Beinoni. If a person gets a foreign thought and they invite it in for coffee and cake, you know what I mean? Stick around for a while. Let's have a evil thinking party. That makes you a Rashah. One time somebody came to the Mizritcha Magid and said, Rebbe, how can I control my thoughts? How can I control my thoughts? So the Magid sent him to one of his Talmidim, one of his disciples. Student of the Magid goes to the person's house. I think it might have been a Revolve Kitzis, whoever it was. He knocks on his door. It's night already. Knocks on the door. No answer. He looks through the window. He sees the guy sitting there. The light's on. They're sitting there. Goes to the door, knocks louder. No answer. Knocks louder. No answer. To make a long story short, he's standing there for an hour banging on the door. Finally, after an hour, the guy opens the door. He says, what's wrong with you? I'm banging an hour already on the door. Why didn't you let me in? So he answered him, in my house, I control who comes in and who doesn't come in. And that's what the Maggid wanted him to hear. In my brain, in my mind, the Jew controls who comes in and who doesn't come in. Now, the Alter Rebbe is going to elaborate the next few chapters all about a Beinoni. But the Alter Rebbe is going to explain that because the Beinoni has the Yetzer Hara is feeding the Beinoni to sin in thought and speech and action. The uniqueness of the Beinoni is not that he gets the evil thought put in. The power of the Beinoni is that the second he is aware of it, he right away gets rid of it. He never willingly will think an evil thought, speech, or action. That's the Beinoni. And just for the record, as we will learn soon, when we get there to Perek Yudalid, Alter Rebbe said, Midas HaBeinoni is the midah of every single Jew. Every person should and could be a Beinoni. And later on, the Alter Rebbe is going to say how. It's very obviously, as we all know, it's not impossible. The Alter Rebbe said it's hard to do, but you could do it. Okay? So the Alter Rebbe says like this. If the person willingly entertains a foreign thought, speech, or action, he's a Rashah. He does tshuva, Rashah v'Tevlei. Never ever does tshuva, Rashah v'Raleh. But the Beinoni never allows the evil to control his thought, speech, or action. Now, the three garments of the godly soul, meaning thought, speech, and action of Kedusha, they are what's controlling the body. They never allow foreigners, i.e., the Yetzer Hara, to enter the body. What is controlling and dominating over the body? The Machshava Dibur Maisa of Taryag Mitzvah Satera, of the 613 mitzvahs. Listen to this. The Beinoni never sinned. Not only that, he will never sin. Not only that, he was never given he never called Rashah. Not 1 hour, not 1 minute his whole life. Now, the obvious question is, what do you mean I was never a Rashah and I will never be? That means the guy that sinned once can never be a Beinoni. So the Rebbe explains that that's not what the Alter Rebbe means. The Alter Rebbe is saying, on my present level, not what happened in the past. Past is gone. You do tshuva, it's gone. On my present level, my nefesh olikis controls the body. Again, not that the nefesh and now the Alter Rebbe is going to say that this guy's a tzaddik gomor. Why is he a Beinoni? And to make it even worse, so to speak, later on in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe is going to say a Beinoni is closer to the Rashah than to the tzaddik. And we'll see why the explanation of it. Meaning, in action, in thought, speech, and action, the Beinoni is a tzaddik. But in the major aspect, tzaddik has no Yetzer Hara. Beinoni has Yetzer Hara. Rashah has Yetzer Hara. The difference is the Rashah allows the Yetzer Hara, the Nefesh Habamis, to control the Nefesh Olikis, even once in a while. The Beinoni never lets it control. But level-wise, a Beinoni has a Yetzer Hara, Nefesh Habamis, and the tzaddik doesn't. So technically, in level, the Beinoni is closer to the tzaddik. To the Rashah than he is to the tzaddik. So the Alter Rebbe is saying like this now. In the Beinoni's present level, the Beinoni is on a level now, the way he feels, that he can never have sin or will never sin. We don't know what the future holds. Free choice is not taken away. A Beinoni could become a Rashah. But on his present level, where he is now, it wasn't possible in his present level that he sinned or will sin. On his present level now. So even if somebody was a Rashah, they could still become a Beinoni. Because even though the Alter Rebbe says, he never transgressed a sin, and he will never transgress, it means on his present level. And now the Alter Rebbe says like this. So why isn't he called a tzaddik? He says like this. Ach muhus ba'atzmus nefesh olakis shein eser b'chinesel, but the 10 levels of the nefesh olakis, which are the intellect and the 7 emotional levels, lo lohem levada hamlucha v'hamamshala b'ir ktana. They do not have the sole jurisdiction, the sole opinion to the body. In other words, by a Beinoni, normally, the Nefesh Olikis gives its opinion, Yetzer Hara gives its opinion. They're still fighting, remember. Nefesh Habamis is causing the Beinoni to sin. The Nefesh Olikis is fighting that the Beinoni shouldn't sin. The Beinoni makes the decision not to give in to the Nefesh Habamis. But the Nefesh Olikis doesn't have the sole jurisdiction like a tzaddik does, that there is no Yetzer Hara. The tzaddik has no temptation to sin. The Beinoni does have temptation to sin. because he has a Yetzer Hara. The only greatness of the Beinoni is he doesn't allow it to come into fruition. He doesn't allow it to become practical in the body, to sin, not in thought, not in speech, not in action. What? Unmute yourself.
Rabbi?
Yeah?
I have a question about the Beinoni.
Yeah?
Well, actually, about the tzaddik, actually. How come it says, Sheva tzaddik yipol v'kam? If he's a tzaddik, how does he fall?
It's a very good question, but it means falling from his own level of Kedusha. It doesn't mean falling to a level of evil. In other words, there's a very interesting argument in the Gemara Brachas. Is it possible for a tzaddik to become a Rashah? Is it possible for a tzaddik gomor who has no Yetzer Hara, no Nefesh Habamis, can he become a Rashah? And there's a machlekes Abai and Rava, okay, in the Gemara Brachas. And what's their whole proof? Yechanan Kohen Gadol. Yechanan was a Kohen Gadol for 80 years. You know what it means? In and out of the Holy of Holies for 80 years. In second Beis Hamikdash, every year they had another one. Because they weren't great, they died in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Yechanan Kohen Gadol was in a Kohen Gadol for 80 years in and out of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. You can imagine what type of tzaddik he was. And then the Gemara says, not to Tzeduki. He became an apikatus. So from there, one opinion says, you see that a tzaddik can become a Rashah. And the other opinion says, no, a tzaddik can't become a Rashah. Originally, Yechem Kohen Gadol was Yanei HaMelech, and because he was Yanei HaMelech, he was a Rashah to begin with, and then he became a tzaddik, so he could become a Rashah again. But the question is, it's a very fundamental question, Martha, you just asked, and let me explain this a little bit. We have a few minutes left. If a tzaddik has no Yetzer Hara, how can he become a Rashah? Be realistic. How can he become a Rashah? So it's very simple. A tzaddik, and that's what the pasuk says, a tzaddik will fall 7 times and get up. There's the obvious question, I don't know how much we're going to cover tonight, but if a tzaddik has no Yetzer Hara, how does a tzaddik have free will? We have free will. Yetzer Hara, Yetzer Tov, we have free choice to listen to either one of them. If the tzaddik gomer has no Yetzer Hara, what free choice does he have? So Chassidus explains, the free choice is between good and better. Not between good and bad like we have. The tzaddiks who has no Yetzer Hara, no Nefesh Habamis, his free choice is between good and better. And therefore, when the tzaddik does good instead of better, he failed. And that could knock the tzaddik down a level. And then that can happen again and again and again and again until finally the tzaddik reached in his level originally such a low level, he can get a Yetzer Hara. It's possible. When a tzaddik falls on his level, in fact, there's a Zohar that says, Man de nofal midarge, a person that falls from his level is called is called dead. And the mashal of Shmuel Levitin used to give for this is very simple. 2 people are on a ladder. One's on the 3rd step and one's on the 5th step. Who's higher? The answer is, it depends which direction they're going. If 5 is coming down and 3 is going up, 3 is higher than 5. If a person sins on their level, they can lower themselves to such a level that eventually they'll get the Yetzer Hara back. And that could be the possibility. Okay, to be continued. Everybody have a good week. Tell more people about the class. Let's get more people on it. Don't forget, Friday and Shabbos is Rosh Chodesh. This Shabbos, 3 Sefer Torahs, Parshas Shkolim, Pashas Mishpatim, Pashas Rosh Chodesh, Pashas Shkolim. Have a beautiful month. Adar is coming. It's a happy month. And Mitzvah Shem, there'll be only happiness.